Alright, so we got two Tab 4 7-inch boards, and both of them have a bad charging port in them. So we're going to do two different ways on taking off the charging port for this model. Now, I'm not sure how well the second method will work. I haven't attempted the second method on this this tablet yet. But the first method is to use hot air to remove the charging port, and not everyone has a hot air station. The second method is to use desoldering alloy, just like a big puddle of it on the charging port to remove it. Because the only reason is because the charging port actually has a pad right in the middle underneath the charging port, and I'll show you how to do the second method. But I'm going to explain how to do it when I get to it. I'm not going to really talk too much about it right now. I'm just going to show you the first method right now, and basically let's go, we'll go to the next one after this. Alright, so I'm just going to turn on the hot air. Just put a little flux down around the port. Don't put too much, but it doesn't really matter. And let's try to get it good. And focus. There we go. Focus. A little bit. Hot air. There you go. Comes out. Don't want to pull on it too much. You want to make sure that you want to wait until the heat gets distributed all the way around, especially on that pad in the middle. If it comes off, it's no big deal. It's just a ground. But you know, I don't know. It's not a good thing, I guess. So that's method one to removing the charging port. Now the second method, I'm gonna show you underneath the microscope. I'm gonna turn off the hot air. Don't need that anymore. And here's the second board. Oh, for some reason I only grabbed one charging port, which I lost already. Nope, here it is. I only grabbed one. I'm gonna go get another one. So, I'm gonna get your flux and desoldering alloy, which I don't have a piece handy right now. Boom. Soldering alloy. Let's go ahead and turn on our soldering iron. A little flux down. Boom. Bada bing, bada boom. That's done. So, do you want to get your... Oh, that's not the tip that I want. Let me switch tips real quick. Don't want to use this one. Waiting for it to warm up. Alright, so go ahead and just start putting some desolder alloy on the legs. And then on the pins. There we go. So I'm going to flip it and put some more on the bottom side of the legs, just to make sure it's kind of flowing through. There we go. You should see it. If you got a big blob like that, you'll see it like once it pulls through. You should see that like glob. Pretty much, you'll see it actually get sucked just like that. Pull some more. There we go. And there we go. So there are two ways. Like I said, I haven't tried it on this board yet. But on the tab 3, the charging port actually has a little bit of a gap at the between the charging port, like where you can see a little bit at the top or underneath it. And sorry, I'm doing a good job here. And you can put the iron on it on the bottom side and put some desolder, and it'll basically like flow underneath and go onto that pad. Now, another thing you can do too, because the charging port has holes underneath it, almost close to the center, you can break the inside completely out and just put your iron inside with a blob of desolder, and that should do the same thing that I'm trying to explain with the doing it like underneath it, but instead you're sticking your iron inside. So I'm gonna try to stick the iron inside, and that should work. But first I'm gonna go ahead and break it more. It's not completely broken, so I mean, you can leave it like that if you want. Your iron is just gonna melt the plastic, but I don't like that. I don't like melting plastic on the iron. So just grab yourself a pair of tweezers or a small flathead screwdriver and just go at it. Just be careful. You don't want to force it too much towards the back, because you could break the pins. Like you could push it out towards the back, and it'll pull the pins backwards and it'll rip the pads off. So just be careful with that. All right, I think that's good enough. So I'm going to get some flux in there. I'm going to actually stick this on the device now. Actually, I'm going to do it upside down so I can still do it under the microscope for you guys. Let me adjust here. Alright, so iron, there's already flux inside. Just gonna stick your iron in there and your desolder alloy, and just gonna let it sit there for a little bit. Hopefully it'll catch and flow through. Come on. Oh, I don't like that noise. There we go. See? That blob pretty much just went right through the hole and onto that center pad. And it kind of heated up the whole port along with the pins on the back, and I was just able to pull it off. And that's just using only desolder, no hot air. All right, that's enough of that. You also want to make sure you're doing this in a well ventilated area. Make sure you have a fan on or a a window open, something to let the fumes out. All right, so now I'm just gonna put the port on. And just like that. Oh, too much. It's a lot of solder. There you go. A couple of big bits. And also, I'll put solder back on those things. There we go. Just gonna get some alcohol, clean it up a little. Make sure that those holes are clear, and just flip it on the other side and look at it. It's got a little stuff in it, but that's just from the solder. Actually, sorry, not the solder, the flux. There we go. Easy peasy. You don't have to worry about cleaning out the hole. Once you stick the charging, you usually want to make sure that it's clear. When you stick the charging port in, it'll just basically push whatever's in there out. And make sure it's sitting flat. The pins, if you don't have a microscope, it's going to be a little bit hard. But you want to make sure the pins are sitting flat with the board. And that's pretty much about it. You can do this with a Walmart soldering iron. It uses a pretty thick tip. It's just going to be a little bit more harder because of the small pins on the left side. Those tend to basically, the soldering iron is basically almost about this thick from like if you get one from Walmart. If you were to like touch it, it'll pretty much bridge two, if not all three, of the pins there. I like to solder one leg first, and then another leg opposite corner, just to get it in place, and then I go pin by pin, and then finish the legs off, and then go underneath, put more solder to let the solder flow through the legs. But the solder just right now, it's just to hold it in place, basically. So let's go ahead and get some more. And get a little bit of solder. Ugh. Make sure it's still flat, because I did push it. Yeah, it's still flat. And then opposite. There we go. I'm going to switch tips. I'm going to try to make it seem almost kind of close to like a cheaper iron with a thick tip. Some of the cheaper irons you can still remove the tip and change it for something else, but the standard one that comes with the iron, sorry, I don't remember which one was in there first and was hot. I think I want to say it's about that thick, but you get what I'm trying to tell you. It's like it'll kind of pretty much like bridge the connection, unless you have a microscope and you'll be able to tell like just when to like touch it, go back, touch it back, you know. But I'm going to try to use this one. Other than that, I'm just going to use the tweezers that I have here. That's what I generally use when I'm soldering charging port on. Let's get back to it. I'm just going to put a little bit more flux down and get back my solder. That's sticking. I'm gonna clean it off. Clean it real quick. Let's try this again. There we go. Alright, so as you guys can see I don't know if you guys can see what I'm doing. What I'm doing is actually putting the solder on the tip and then put a good amount, like a little blob, and then pretty much twist it to where the solder blob is and just kind of touch it up, and it should. Forgot alarm. I'm already up. But there you guys have it. Charging port replacement on a tab 4 7-inch. Showed you two methods to remove the charging port. One is hot air. You can actually use some desolder alloy to put on the port first before using the hot air, and then it makes it just as fast to take it off, because it doesn't really have to heat up through the legs too much to melt that solder, and then it just kind of pops off. And the other method of using, I think, how much did I use? It was a full stick of desolder alloy, which I am not sure what the heck happened to it now. Oh, here it is. This is even the one. I don't think this is it. What the heck? Did it fall? Yes, it did. Do not want to lose this stuff. It's a little bit expensive, but see how much I used compared to compared to the one I have now. But I think I used about a quarter of it, I guess. So there's a new one, and this is the one that I used. And yeah, I guess it's about about a quarter of it. So like half right there. So it's about a quarter. But yeah, didn't really use a whole lot, not as much as I thought. But either way, two methods, and I also used the tip, making it basically like simulate like if you're using like a Walmart soldering iron, or I mean you can buy a soldering station on eBay pretty inexpensively. That probably you'll find a decent one for about, I want to say like $150 to $200. If you're wanting to get into something like this, then I would probably invest in something where you can actually, you know, change tips and maybe get the tip that's a little bit smaller, or a J tip, because it generally tends to be small and then gets bigger. But that's one thing that you can do. Either way. But you know, once you start getting into it, you can upgrade your equipment and stuff like that. Anyway, these videos are not really meant for the at-home person that just wants to fix their own tablet. That you're gonna end up spending a little bit more money than you would care to, and you're gonna have equipment that you probably will not use again. But this is really those who are trying to get into it as either like a hobby or a side job. And I'm just trying to show you two different methods on of ways you can change the port on the tablet if you haven't done one before. So if you're just getting into it, basically. So that's it. We'll probably be doing something else, something similar to this, where I show you a couple methods on how to do something. I'll just have to wait until I get like multiple of the same device, basically. All right, so that's it.